Big news yesterday, a couple of running backs who had been looking for employment now have it. We're going to start with Dalvin Cook agreeing to terms on a one-year deal with the Jets. We reported last night it's a $7 million base package with $1.6 million available in incentives. My guess is the actual contract is structured in a way to have a much lower cap number this year with money kicked into future years. I believe that Cook did the deal last night once he saw what the next guy we're going to talk about, Ezekiel Elliott, got from the Patriots, and Cook realized, I better get what I can while I can because this market continues to dip for veteran running backs. So he gets up to 8.6. He'd been holding out for something closer to the 9 or 10, and he was due to make 10.4 from the Vikings this year. He had to do the deal. It was time to get it done. And I admire the restraint that the Jets and the Dolphins had to not get into a tug of war for Dalvin Cook and start throwing more money on the table. They waited for him. They both waited for him to make up his mind. I think all along the Jets had more on the table than the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins would have found a spot for him, but they got plenty of guys in the running back room.
Right.
The Jets always had this need, this urgency to have someone around that they can count on because they still don't know whether and to what extent Breece Hall is going to be as effective as he was early last year before he tore his ACL. Chris.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think either team was desperate, right? It was more like icing on the cake to a degree. But the Jets certainly, I think, had more of a need. You know, you said it right, Breece Hall, the injury. Then you start to look at the rest of the group there. And wait, you got a veteran quarterback, right, who's going to be making 1 million checks at the line of scrimmage. We know he's the new sheriff, right? I mean, Aaron Rodgers, you know, is took over for Peyton Manning, maybe not to that level as far as the guy that does things at the line of scrimmage, all the checks, the signals, all of that. And you're going to trust a bunch of what, rookie running backs? Second-year running backs, right, Mike? Oh, hey, we're trying to protect the 40-year-old quarterback. Hey, you know, young running back who's still learning protection schemes and little nuances there. That just didn't seem right. And I think that's where, at the end of the day, they looked at it and went, wait, we don't know if we got running backs that we trust, you know, here in the trust tree to help Rodgers out when he does all this stuff at the line of scrimmage, let alone he upgrades the room. And that's where, you know, I think is the first positive, at least for the Jets. He upgrades the room. We know he's good between the tackles. He's good in the pass game, and he'll be ready to pick up blitzes. And I think that's where, you know, there's a ton of benefit for the Jets, Rodgers, in this offense.
And he was a key factor in 4 of Minnesota's 13 wins last year. The win over the Dolphins, the win over the Commanders, the win over the Bills. He lit that fuse on the comeback. Down 27-10, he busted an 80-yard touchdown run that started the intrigue of, well, maybe they can do something here.
Yeah.
And then in the Colts game, he scored the touchdown that completed that historic comeback on a screen pass and took it the rest of the way to the house for the touchdown that forced overtime. So he's still got plenty of gas in the tank, and the Jets have the need. Now that they're all in with Aaron Rodgers, they needed that extra little something in the backfield. And when you look at what Aaron Rodgers' cap hit would have been under the contract that was in place at the time the trade was done, and remember, Rodgers moved money around to help the Packers, but the Jets were expecting a $15 cap charge this year, $15 million, $15 would be quite a deal. $15 million cap charge for Aaron Rodgers this year. It got cut down to like $8.8 million. So, you know, there's extra money. Thanks to Aaron Rodgers, some of that extra money that Rodgers left behind allowed them to go out and get Dalvin Cook to a $7 million cap charge with another $1.6 million potentially available. So it's a win for the Jets.
A win for the Jets, definitely. And a win for Dalvin Cook, at least for now. I think this is a great spot for him. They're not going to drive him into the ground and give him the ball 350 times up the middle, you know, and crush his body that way. It's going to be a space game a little bit. They got some other running backs to where it can lessen the wear and tear on him, and that'll be good too. But, you know, Mike, you know, we talk about the Dolphins, the Jets, the team, and all that. And, hey, we're all the Jets, and how's it coming together, and the new nucleus around the quarterback. And we know that takes time, and it's not going to be easy, right? And we know how good the AFC is and the AFC East is. But After 2 preseason games and just looking at the Jets and feeling the vibe and hearing about practice last week in Carolina and watching that game and what they were doing on the defensive side of the ball in that game, we're getting towards the time of the year where we got to pick teams to go into the playoffs, right? So I'm starting to kind of go through those exercises in my brain. And I think the Jets are just like, as much as I go, ooh, there's a lot of new parts and there's going to be pressure and it's spotlight on them. I think I'm coming to the determination that they're too talented for me not to put them in the playoff field when it's all said and done. The defense, some of the young guys we need to see turn the corner, they have turned the corner. The Jermaine Johnsons, the Will McDonald, who they drafted in the first round. I was told by somebody out there in the Carolina Jets scrimmage and that practice that Quinnen Williams was unblockable, that he literally had double-digit sacks and was in the backfield the whole practice, right? So you look at that, the direction the O-line's going in. If we could throw up the graphic again, you look at Rodgers and go, damn, he's got Garrett Wilson, and everybody's gushing about him, and they gushed about him last year. McCole Hardman, Corey Davis, Alan Lazard, the running backs, and you just go through it and you go, I mean, yeah, there's going to be, some bumps in the road, but I just look at them and go, damn, they're so talented across the board right now. I'm definitely putting the Jets in the playoffs when I have to do our preseason, playoff tree and pick teams and do all that stuff.
Just remember,
I know
every team in that division has an incredibly difficult schedule.
Yep.
In addition to playing each other twice,
I know,
which is 6 difficult games for all 4 teams. Every team of the AFC West, every team of the NFC East. So, other than winning the division, it is not going to be easy to get in because if you lose enough of those games, you're going to be compared to teams who finish second place in the other 3 divisions where the schedules are easier, both in the division and out of the division. They don't have to play the Bills, Dolphins, and Patriots twice. They're playing the Jaguars, Texans, and Colts twice.
Yeah.
So we talked about the Titans and what Mike Vrabel's trying to do. The Titans, who once upon a time that was the name of the Jets, they may be in a better position than the Jets unless the Jets win the division when you consider the schedule in and out of the division for the course of the year. So that's going to be the challenge. The talent is there. Making it all come together, getting it all on the same page, getting the most out of it, and winning those games is going to be key. And it really starts right out of the gates. Week 1, Bills at home. Dalvin Cook versus James Cook. Just like last year, November in Buffalo when it was Vikings-Bills. The brothers are getting together. The Cook brothers, both guys, will likely be RB1 in week 1. And who knows, maybe Breece Hall will have something to say about that with the Jets. But, Chris, I said this early on, and I always say week 1. Whatever the outcome is, don't worry about it unless you lose at home to a division rival. Because if you lose at home to a division rival, you got to go there later in the year. If you get swept by that team, it makes it a lot harder to win the division.
Yeah.
And if the Bills sweep the Jets, it makes it a lot harder for the Jets to overcome the Bills to win the AFC East. That first game, Monday night, critical for the Jets. And now they've added an extra piece that, I think they appreciate. And we've heard Robert Saleh, the coach of the team, talk about this, how difficult those first 6 games are.
Yeah, right.
This Cook move may just be so we don't rush Breece Hall back prematurely.
Sure, right.
So we don't need him to be ready week 1. We got Cook to help us through this 6-game stretch. And then we'll see where we are after our bye week and where Breece Hall is. But we got Dalvin Cook now to help us through this 6-game gauntlet that may determine in many respects whether or not we're a playoff team. 3-3 minimum is what they got to go. 4-2 or 5-1 would be, hey, pencil them in.
Watch out. Right.
For the postseason if they can do that well in those first 6 games.
No, I think you're there with we're on the same page. That's the Dalvin Cook. I think that's why you sign him. Like you're saying, it's the Bills. It's McDermott. There's no Leslie Frazier. It's a big division game. He's going to want to maybe add a wrinkle or 2 to the defense, getting it off on the right step. It's the Dallas Cowboys the next week. They know they can rush the quarterback. They don't want to trust some of these younger guys. And to your point, don't want to have to rush Breece Hall and have that pressure on a guy that, can be their starting running back for the next 3 years after this season. So I think that's where it makes a lot of sense. And then like we talked about, and, we'll see more on Hard Knocks tonight, right? That comes out tonight again where, hey, him going through signals and doing the things at the line of scrimmage, and some of the complaints I think we heard last week coming out of training camp there in Carolina are going to be that stuff. The game's going to start moving fast. He's going to be blue 48 and giving signals as he's saying blue 48. It's like if you don't catch it and stay on board, your ass is going to be on the sideline. And that's where I think Dalvin Cook is going to come in extremely handy for them. And then as we always talk about, right, if Rodgers can be aggressive, which he's proving through Hard Knocks that he can still throw the ball down the field with the best of them. So that's why I'm going to continue to say, damn it, you need to be aggressive, Mr. Aaron Rodgers, but defending the whole field. If he does that, and then they have a good, quick, short passing game and a run game and screen game with Dalvin Cook, man, there's going to be a lot of things you got to cover in that Jets offense, and it's going to make things interesting.
I wonder if the folks at NFL Films and HBO uttered a few curse words last night as they have the rough cut ready to make it final copy for this episode of Hard Knocks, and then they find out the Jets have signed Dalvin Cook. It's like, damn it. What are we going to cut out? What are we going to add in? What can we do here to cover this?
Do you think they make that late of a thing?
Wrinkle?
Yeah. Do you think they'll wait till next week, or do they try to add it in tonight?
No.
Yeah, no?
I think they'll add it in.
Yeah.
They'll find a way to get it in to this, because it's never final until it's time to press the button at 10 o'clock Eastern tonight when the show goes live. My guess is they
got to call in Liev Schreiber and tell him to voice over another segment real quick for just in case. Right? And you going to watch tonight? Or are you going to be a hater on it?
I don't know. We'll see. Listen, I like things that are good. I'm sorry. I like the quarterback series. I think it's good. Apparently, Mad Dog Russo not a fan of the quarterback series.
The quarterback series is good. I don't think it's as good as Hard Knocks right now. I'm into the quarterback series. Hard Knocks 1 was knocked it out of the park. I don't know what you could not.
Yeah, because you're an Aaron Rodgers fanboy. That's why.
If it was Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or any of the great quarterbacks, I would have been all over it. Yes, but I am an Aaron Rodgers fanboy. I would agree with that.
Episode 1 of Hard Knocks was basically episode 1 of next year's quarterback series, with only one quarterback being featured, Aaron Rodgers. Because that's what it was. It was the Aaron Rodgers show, and that's fine. You play to your strengths.
You're just mad? You're mad because he said don't read crap like that? Or what are you mad at? Why don't you want to just buy into the show?
Care.
You're mad at Rodgers?
Because it's the same cookie cutter stuff. We fall for it every year. We never get anything remotely close to what's truly going on behind the curtain. It's not a documentary. It's an infomercial. But people just accept it because they'd rather take an infomercial than nothing at all. The product is so good, we'll happily watch an infomercial featuring the team.
There was a lot of behind-the-scenes good stuff. I don't know what you're talking about.
That they wanted us to see.
Okay, fine. Well, what do you think they're going to show you? They're going to show you like hey, here's the play that we want you to check to in the Super Bowl, right? I mean, I don't know. Quarterback series, they're not telling me some of that stuff either.
That'd be presumptuous. No, that's true. That's true. But at least, I had that same take, that they're only giving us what they want to show us. Any of these things that are produced by NFL Films, you need to understand, as a consumer, you're only getting what they want you to see. It's house media. They are creating this for your entertainment, and they're not telling you the truth. We're numb to it because it's that or nothing. What's our alternative? No one is going to get the green light to go do a true documentary about what's happening behind the scenes. Except that guy that somehow was in the room doing the Saints documentary when Greg Williams was saying all that stuff about the 49ers. Remember that?
Well,
that guy's name was Sean something. Yeah. I mean, that's the only time we've ever gotten the truth about anything. So it tells you there's a hell of a disconnect between what they want us to know and what's actually going on. That's all I'm
they're
saying.
Never going to tell you all that stuff. Jeez, right? You better watch tonight. I'm grilling you in the morning. You better watch it, okay?
All right. I may have an itch tonight. There's an angle here. Now I gotta go from yucking it up to being somewhat serious.
Okay.
Someone sent me this last night. Phil Mushnick of the New York Post had a column the morning after the Hall of Fame game in the New York Post.
Yeah.
In print, arguing that they shouldn't pursue Dalvin Cook because of this still pending, lingering domestic violence issue with a lawsuit, and he's got counter lawsuits, and who knows what the hell happened. And in print, they had the photo of Cook on one side and one of the images that was attached to the lawsuit by his ex-girlfriend on the other side, and Mushnick making the argument there's just, it's got this domestic violence angle to it that is just kind of not mentioned. It's kind of just, it's there, but nobody talks about it. And Mushnick's point is the Jets don't need this guy because we've got this unresolved issue out there. And who knows what we're going to find out. And is this the right person to bring in when you have these allegations? Again, he has fought back against them aggressively.
Yeah.
He has sued his alleged victim for defamation. He's sued her lawyer for defamation. And we have the item at PFT from several weeks back. He's won some victories preliminarily in court.
I saw that. Right.
Make you think he may be onto something.
Right.
Here. He may have something here.
Right.
This may turn the tables on someone making these very strong claims that can hurt someone's public image, hurt his career in a very public sport like football, where they're very sensitive to these things. Mushnick's point is the Jets aren't being nearly sensitive enough to this issue. And I don't know what investigation they've done. I don't know where it all stands. I had heard from some in the business that one of the reasons that there wasn't the land rush for Dalvin Cook is there's this vague concern that maybe there is a suspension in the offing. If that's an issue, it surely didn't keep the Jets from pursuing him and giving him the $7 million base package with up to $1.6 million in incentives. But we'll see where that fits into this and what developments there may be. It's something for now that we just at least need to be aware of and pay attention to, because depending upon how things go, depending upon what the league does, there were never any criminal charges. The league could investigate. The league could impose discipline. It's just something to keep an eye on at a time when the Cook acquisition just adds to this sense of euphoria that the Jets have finally figured out the formula after all these years, and they're going to be high-end contenders.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's lingering, like you said. I think that's why it's not getting a ton of attention. And yeah, I think we've seen some things to make us question it a little bit or see where it goes. It's a tough subject, as we know, very sensitive to it. But as I've told you before, I've seen those stories go both ways. I've seen it both ways. So that's where, you hope the Jets have done their due diligence and know something, have connections to, we know the guy, we know the agent, we know a little bit of the background of the story. We're comfortable with it, and maybe they've talked to a few other people. You hope that's what's been done, to cover their own butts that way. But yeah, I think we always got to be. We
just don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know what the truth is.
Be careful about judging. Exactly right. That's all. All I'll say. As a player, I saw it go both ways and crazy ways. So that's where on this kind of subject, there's always that phrase, right? All is fair in love and war and all that. Where I just go, I don't know. I just want to see all the details, and we'll go from then. I'm not going to jump in, with just little parts of the story here and there.
Well, first of all, are we ever going to be privy to the details to make our own decision about what happened? And second of all, the bigger issue is there's a system, there's a process that's in place for sifting all this out in the civil justice system. And then you've got the separate proceedings of the National Football League that activate whenever they want them to activate, that go whatever direction they want them to go. Now, it's a little more fair to players than it had been in the past because of the presence of the Judge Sue L. Robinson dynamic, where the league has to prove a case to someone kind of independent at some point. Independent, I think it's fair to say independent because she's independently hired and paid by the NFL and the NFL Players Association. But there are processes here. There are steps here. There is information that will be learned by others whose job it is to learn that information and make decisions accordingly. We just need to be aware of it on the radar screen. And Chris, look, we know how this goes. Talent wins out. Last year, look at what the Browns did to get Deshaun Watson, despite all the pending civil lawsuits and the very strong likelihood he was getting suspended. They still did it. They gave up all the draft picks. They gave up that contract that turned the league on its ear, and Deshaun Watson got suspended 11 games. So we just need to be aware of it. And if there's a concern out there that some teams had, the Jets apparently didn't have enough of a concern to keep them from doing this deal and adding Dalvin Cook to the roster. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.